A championship banner from 2020 is hanging in the Crypto.com arena rafters right now, and the name embroidered on that fabric might be wearing purple and gold again sooner than anyone outside of NBA. Inner Circles realizes in what could become the most audacious reunion story in Lakers history. Welcome back to the Lakers News Fan Report, your exclusive home for breaking news, insider updates, and the fearless analysis that cuts through speculation to deliver what actually matters for our beloved Los Angeles Lakers. What I'm about to share involves a trade scenario so bold, so strategically brilliant, that when you understand the full scope of what's being discussed behind closed doors, you'll realize we might be witnessing Rob Pelinka's masterpiece in real time. This isn't fantasy basketball. This isn't wishful thinking from desperate fans. This is legitimate intel about a potential move that could reshape our championship trajectory and reunite us with a player who already knows what it takes to deliver banner number 18. Stay with me through every detail because the complexity of this situation, the multiple moving pieces across different franchises, and the sheer magnitude of what this could mean for Lakers basketball requires your full attention. By the time I finish laying out the facts, the framework, and the strategic reasoning, you're going to understand why bringing Anthony Davis back to Los Angeles isn't just possible. It's actually starting to make perfect sense for everyone involved. Let me start by painting the picture of what's happening across the NBA landscape right now, because understanding the context is absolutely critical to grasping why this opportunity even exists. Anthony Davis, our former franchise cornerstone who was instrumental in delivering the 2020 championship, alongside LeBron James, is currently playing for the Dallas Mavericks after a trade that shocked the basketball world. During the previous offseason, that move was controversial. It was painful for Lakers fans, but the decision was made to reshape our roster with future flexibility in mind. Fast forward to today, and the situation in Dallas has become increasingly complicated. The Mavericks are struggling significantly with a disappointing 2-6 record to start the season, well below expectations for a team that reached the finals just last year. Injuries have disrupted their rhythm, chemistry has been inconsistent, and serious questions are emerging about whether their current roster construction can realistically compete for a championship. Anthony Davis himself is dealing with the same injury concerns that have followed him throughout his career, and while he's still producing elite numbers when healthy, Dallas is facing a difficult reality check about building around a 32-year-old big man with his medical history, especially when they have Cooper Flagg, a generational young talent who represents their future. This creates a fascinating dynamic because Dallas might be approaching a crossroads moment where they have to decide between continuing to compete now with an aging, injury-prone star or pivoting toward a younger core built around Flagg and Kyrie Irving. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, the New York Knicks are positioned as one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference with a solid 5-3 record, but they're not satisfied with just being competitive. They want to be dominant. They want to be legitimate championship favorites. And their front office believes that adding an elite-to-weight big man like Anthony Davis alongside Karl-Anthony Towns would create one of the most formidable front courts in NBA history. The Knicks have the assets to make a competitive offer to Dallas, including quality players like OG Anunoby and Josh Hart, plus draft capital that could help the Mavericks retool their roster. This is where the opportunity for the Lakers emerges. And this is where the chess match being played by Rob Pelinka becomes absolutely fascinating. If the Knicks are serious about acquiring Anthony Davis from Dallas, they would need to move significant salary and roster pieces to make the deal work financially. Under NBA rules, that creates a secondary market opportunity where other teams, including us, could potentially get involved either as facilitators or direct participants in a larger trade framework. But there's an even more intriguing scenario that league insiders are quietly discussing. One where the Lakers could actually position themselves to reacquire Anthony Davis through a complex multi-team trade that satisfies everyone's needs and brings our championship core back together for one final run. I know some of you are thinking this sounds too complicated or too good to be true, but stay with me because when you break down each team's motivations and needs, the framework actually starts to make a lot of sense. Let's start with the Knicks because their motivation is the most straightforward. New York is tired of being close, but not close enough. They're tired of playoff disappointments, and they believe they're one elite piece away from being legitimate championship contenders. They already have Jalen Brunson running the offense at an all-star level. They have Mikal Bridges providing elite two-way play on the wing, and they have Karl-Anthony Towns giving them offensive versatility at the 5. Adding Anthony Davis to that mix would give them a defensive anchor who can protect the rim, switch on perimeter players, guard multiple positions, and provide offensive versatility that few players in the league can match. Davis is currently averaging 20.8 points, 10.2 rebounds, 1.6 steals, and 1.2 blocks per game this season on 52% shooting from the floor. His offensive rating of 113 and defensive rating of 105 demonstrate that even at 32 years old, with injury concerns, he remains an elite two-way force when healthy. A front court featuring Mikal Bridges, Anthony Davis, and Karl-Anthony Towns would be absolutely terrifying for opposing offenses to deal with, and the Knicks would instantly vault into the conversation as favorites to represent the Eastern Conference in the finals. That's the kind of move that defines franchises and creates championship windows. And New York is absolutely willing to pay a significant price to make it happen. For Dallas, the calculus is more complicated but equally compelling when you dig into the details. They're facing the harsh reality that their championship window with the current core might be closing faster than they anticipated. Davis has been productive when available, but his injury history makes him unreliable for long-term planning. And the Mavericks are starting to wonder if building their future around a player who might miss 20 games per season is sustainable. With Cooper Flagg emerging as a potential franchise cornerstone who could lead their team for the next decade, retooling around youth while remaining competitive in the short term makes strategic sense. The proposed trade framework that's being discussed would send Anthony Davis to New York in exchange for OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, and a 2026 first-round pick that's top 8 protected. For Dallas, this package provides immediate value and future flexibility. OG Anunoby is having an excellent season, averaging 18.1 points, 6.0 rebounds, and 2 points for steals per game, on 48.6% shooting overall with 41.4% from three-point range. That's elite two-way production from a wing who can defend multiple positions, space the floor, and fit seamlessly alongside any core. Josh Hart brings toughness, rebounding, and defensive versatility, averaging 7.9 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 3.6 assists per game. While his offensive numbers aren't eye-popping, his impact on winning is significant through hustle plays, defensive intensity, and basketball IQ. Plus, the draft capital gives Dallas flexibility to continue building through the draft while remaining competitive in the present. This is the kind of trade that allows the Mavericks to pivot toward their future without completely blowing up their current roster. And that balance is attractive to any organization trying to navigate a difficult transition. Period. Now here's where the Lakers enter the equation. And this is where the scenario becomes incredibly interesting for us. If New York successfully acquires Anthony Davis from Dallas in the framework I just described, there's a possibility that the Knicks would be open to flipping Davis to us in a subsequent deal, if we can offer them something they value more than what Dallas is providing. Alternatively, and this is the more complex but potentially more realistic scenario, the Lakers could insert themselves directly into the initial trade as a third team, facilitating the deal while simultaneously positioning ourselves to acquire Davis. The exact mechanics would depend on what assets we're willing to part with and what Dallas and New York value most, but the framework could involve us sending players like D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, and future draft picks to help balance the trade while bringing Anthony Davis back to Los Angeles. I'm not going to pretend this is simple or straightforward because it's not, but three-team trades happen regularly in the NBA when the motivations align properly. And in this case, all three franchises have clear reasons to explore creative solutions for the Lakers. The motivation is crystal clear and doesn't require much explanation. Bringing back Anthony Davis would instantly transform us from a solid playoff team into a legitimate championship contender. The familiarity is already there. The chemistry between AD and LeBron is proven, and the basketball fit is seamless. Davis thrived in our system before. He knows the organization inside and out. He has relationships with the coaching staff, and most importantly, he's already proven he can win at the highest level. Wearing purple and gold, that championship pedigree is invaluable and significantly reduces the risk that comes with most major acquisitions. The defensive impact of adding Anthony Davis back to our roster would be immediate and transformative. Our biggest weakness this season has been consistent rim protection and interior defense. When opponents attack the paint, We've been middle of the pack in opponent field goal percentage at the rim, and while we have solid individual defenders, we lack that elite anchor who can protect the basket, contest shots without fouling, and make the kinds of help rotations that elevate entire defensive schemes. Davis solves that problem instantly. He's one of the most versatile defenders in basketball, capable of guarding all 5 positions when needed, protecting the rim at an elite level, and making smart rotations that prevent easy baskets. Pairing him with LeBron, who despite his age remains an incredibly smart team defender with elite basketball IQ, would give us a defensive foundation that could legitimately compete with anyone in a 7-game playoff series. Against elite offensive teams like Denver with Nikola Jokic, Phoenix with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, or any other contender, having Anthony Davis anchoring our defense would be an enormous strategic advantage that changes how we can game plan and execute. Offensively, Davis gives us a dimension we currently lack and desperately need. He can operate in the post with his back to the basket. He can face up and attack from the perimeter using his ball handling and footwork. He can roll to the rim in pick-and-roll actions, where his vertical athleticism makes him a constant lob threat. And he can step out and knock down mid-range jumpers when defenses collapse on him. His versatility forces opponents to make difficult decisions about how to defend him, and those decisions create opportunities for everyone else on the floor. LeBron would have another legitimate scoring threat to take pressure off him in late-game situations. Our shooters would get cleaner looks because defenses can't help as aggressively, and our overall offensive rating would spike significantly. The pick-and-roll combinations between LeBron and Anthony Davis were virtually unstoppable during our championship run in 2020, and there's no reason to believe that magic couldn't be recaptured if we bring this duo back together. Now, I need to address the elephant in the room, which is Anthony Davis' injury history and whether trading significant assets for a 32-year-old with his medical track record makes sense. Given our championship timeline, this is a completely legitimate concern, and I'm not going to sugarcoat the risks involved. Davis has missed significant time throughout his career with various injuries, ranging from minor to serious, and there is absolutely no guarantee he stays healthy for a full season. A deep playoff run, the injury risk is real, it's documented, and it's something that has to factor into any evaluation of whether this trade makes sense. However, and this is the critical counterpoint, when Anthony Davis is healthy and on the court, he's still one of the 15 to 20 best players in basketball. His impact on both ends of the floor is undeniable. His skill set is unique and incredibly valuable, and his championship pedigree with this specific organization is proven beyond any doubt. We're not talking about acquiring an unproven commodity or a player who's never performed on the biggest stages. We're talking about bringing back someone who already delivered a championship for this franchise. The risk is real, but the potential reward is banner number 18. And when you're the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James in the twilight years of his career, still playing at an all-NBA level, you absolutely have to be willing to take calculated risks to maximize your championship window. Playing it safe and hoarding assets for a hypothetical future doesn't win championships. Aggressive moves that capitalize on present opportunities do. The financial structure of this potential trade will require creative maneuvering and precise salary matching, but it's absolutely doable within the constraints of NBA salary cap rules and luxury tax considerations. Anthony Davis is making approximately $43 million this year, which means we will lend in $43 million this season, which means we would need to send out roughly $43 million this year, which means we will lend in $34 to $38 million in matching salary to make the trade legal. Under league rules, that would almost certainly involve a combination of players like D'Angelo Russell, whose contract is expiring and provides salary flexibility, Rui Hachimura, who has been a solid contributor, but isn't untouchable when you're talking about acquiring someone of Davis' caliber, and potentially Jarred Vanderbilt or other rotation pieces to balance the numbers. Additionally, we'd likely need to include future draft compensation to sweeten the deal for Dallas and New York, probably a future first-round pick with some level of protection, maybe a couple of second-rounders thrown in to help facilitate the negotiations. The exact details would obviously be negotiated between 3 front offices, with different priorities, timelines, and valuations. But the framework exists for a deal that could work for everyone involved if the willingness is there. I want to be clear about something important here. Losing players like D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura would hurt our depth in the short term. and both have been solid contributors when healthy and engaged. Russell provides playmaking and shooting. Hachimura gives us versatility in scoring punch, and moving them creates holes that would need to be filled through other means. However, and this is the bottom line that matters most, neither of those players is untouchable when you're talking about reacquiring Anthony Davis. Now I genuinely want to hear directly from you, the passionate, intelligent, dedicated fans who make up Laker Nation. How do you feel about the possibility of trading for Anthony Davis again and reuniting him with LeBron? Does his injury history concern you too much to feel comfortable with this move? Or do you believe the championship upside is absolutely worth the risk? What would you personally be willing to give up in terms of current players and future draft picks to make this happen? Do you trust that AD and LeBron can recapture the magic and chemistry from our 2020 championship run? Drop your honest thoughts, your concerns, your excitement, and your detailed analysis in the comments below, because this community thrives on real, intelligent basketball discussion, and I genuinely value your perspective on these franchise-defining decisions that could shape our future for years to come. And listen carefully, because this matters. If you want to stay ahead of every trade rumor, every roster move, every strategic decision, and every development that impacts our beloved Los Angeles Lakers, you absolutely must subscribe to this channel right now and hit that notification bell. The Lakers News Fan Report is your most trusted source for breaking news, insider information, and the kind of detailed, thoughtful analysis that respects your intelligence as a basketball fan. We're here every single day bringing you content that matters, insights that make sense, and the passion that matches your own love for this historic franchise. Lakers Nation, let's go bring AD home and get banner number 18 together.